Hello everybody, before we get into this, it's time for the sponsored intro. This is a sponsored video.
Stop it.
Are you looking for a healthier alternative to energy drinks and G Fuel? Then look no further. The Advantage is an energy boosting supplement that combines caffeine and several other ingredients to give you a nice boost without the possibility of a sugar crash at the end. I tend to take one just before I start a stream and another one halfway through to stay at my best. Use code TGD13 to get 13.5% off your next order. Hello everybody, this is a very long video filled with rambles, opinions and many other things like that. So I'll give you a TLDR at the start. 1. You've got to find the sensitivity that works for you and stick with it to build muscle memory. 2. Make sure your setup is optimized to have the least mouse lag possible. There are videos on YouTube on how to do that sort of thing, i.e. removing mouse acceleration with the Mark C fix, achieving as high a frame rate as possible to reduce input lag or mouse input, and also making sure that mouse filtering is off in games, so it can be as one-to-one as possible. Another example is making sure that you use the same sensitivity in every FPS game to make sure again your muscle memory transfers over. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself physically and mentally. Remaining hydrated, having a good night's sleep, and being physically fit play massive roles in gaming. It may sound weird, but trust me, it works. Back in 2017 when I was overweight, I played very poorly and my aim was subpar compared to that of now. It has improved drastically. A good setup definitely plays a part, so if you're willing to put in the money and the time, it'll be worth it in the long run. Mouse pads are also huge. I for one like smooth ones, due to the fact that I have a notoriously heavier mouse, but the main thing is practice makes perfect. Anyway, if you want to hear the rambling, enjoy the video. The most common question I receive nowadays is how do I hit my flick shots? How do I retain accuracy at a high DPI and sensitivity with such a low centimeter 360? People are always asking for tutorials and insights on how I manage to pull off the things I do. Now, I've played a lot of first-person shooters over the years, so I've just put it down to practice. Rinse and repeat, and constantly strive for improvement. But is that all there is? Maybe figuring out why I can use a higher sensitivity isn't as difficult as it may seem. If we go back in time to around 2011-2012, we can see that I started off with humble beginnings, a small little gaming mouse, not even a quarter of the size of my hand. Just one of the office mice that you're just meant to use for general browsing and, well, documentation. Definitely not for gaming. I was playing on a laptop that could barely maintain 60 FPS in most FPS games. And if it did, that would be at a push and it would overheat and surely switch off after too long. Why is this relevant, you may ask? If you learn to adjust to poor setups and use subpar equipment, transferring over to higher grade equipment later on in the future will possibly harbour better results from your aim and play in general. Reason behind this is because you're used to playing at a disadvantage, and then having those disadvantages taken away, you no longer have to compensate for the lag or the poor setups, etc, etc. So all that extra practice and effort you used to put in just to get a simple kill no longer has to be put in, and instead you can focus on other things. But now another reason behind why I'm able to use high DPI and sensitivity is because I never used to have a desk. I used to play on the kitchen table when I had the chance to, and if I was making too much noise in the front room, I'd be playing on my bed. I'd stack up video game boxes underneath my mouse mat, and I wouldn't really have much space to move around as my mouse mat was kind of terrible back then. And even when I did get a desk, it wasn't big enough for both my keyboard and mouse to be on there realistically, so I had to have my keyboard at an angle. Then I had about 6 to 8 centimeters of movement available before I'd slap the keyboard on my left or shoot off the desk on the right. So again, I had to play with what I had and adjust. Therefore, I had to get used to a high sensitivity and maintain a stable hand. That is now why my right hand is far more stable than my left, due to the amount of high sensitivity play. So now, you're all probably wondering, well, how is any of this relevant? You've had a bad setup in the past. You used to play on your bed, so you didn't have much space to move around. Your desk was small, so again, you didn't have much space to move around. What's this got to do with getting better at aiming and all that sort of thing? Well, here's the point. As I didn't have much space on my desk, I had no choice but to improve with what I had. It was either get used to a high sensitivity, or accept the fact that I'm not going to be able to turn around quickly enough, and I'm just going to slap into my keyboard and my movement will be restricted, and that'll be that. Hey ho, I'm dead, you know. So being forced into that sort of scenario, it's either do or die, essentially. Like, what do you do? What did you guys used to do in school if you couldn't answer a maths question? You'd learn to get around it. You'd figure out how the equations work. You'd try and solve the problem, wouldn't you? Like with most things in life. Therefore, this is the only choice I had. Get used to it or accept that I'm going to be garbage. But yes, again, how is this relevant to you guys? How is this going to help you get better at aiming? Your mission is to find the sensitivity that's good for you. It might be a high one, it might be a low one, but either way you've got to figure it out. Do you have a stable hand? There are so many factors in finding the sensitivity right for you, but that's all for experimentation. And eventually you'll find one you're comfortable with, and then you want to practice with it. You want to remain with that sensitivity, because then you build up the muscle memory necessary for the flicks, for the accuracy, for the tracing. And boom, there we go, you're on your way to becoming a much better gamer. Or at least a much better aimer. But that's just the thing, everybody is different at the end of the day. Some people like the Logitech G502, namely me, whereas other people find it too heavy. It's all subjective. Some people like a high DPI, low in-game sensitivity. Some people like a low DPI and high in-game sensitivity. Some people like a high DPI and high in-game sensitivity. Everybody's different at the end of the day, and it all depends on what you get used to. There is no one strategy that's going to work 100% of the time with aiming. You can get good with a high DPI. The pros may not use it, but they're going by older methods. For example, DPI used to be inaccurate at higher settings back in the day, whereas now, mice sensors can handle higher DPI without any issues, input lag, and other things like that. Technology is advancing at a nice consistent pace. Maybe one day in the future, 1000 will be the standard on what people play on. Maybe even higher. Does this mean that you should all change your DPI to 2000 and copy what I do? No. Whilst it's good to try out the sensitivities of professional players or people that you look up to and think are good at aiming, it might not work for you. For example, if you play with a 40cm 360 and then suddenly change to an 8 or 9cm 360, your muscle memory is going to be off. Not only that, but if you use the whole rotation of your arm, instead of just wrist aiming like myself, you're going to be unsteady at such a high sensitivity, because it's hard to maintain a steady arm for such small movements. And of course, I adjusted to playing wrist because of the lack of space that I had and the fact that I was playing on my bed. Now we're going back to the setup side of things. Can you have high level aim at lower frame rates and subpar setups? My aim used to be okay when I used to play on a 60Hz monitor back in the day. You just don't have the same level of clarity. You can't trace as well due to the fact that you're not getting as much information. Now, does this mean that you have to go all out, buy a top-end PC, 240Hz and everything like that, and break the bank? Not necessarily. I still play at 144Hz, and at the minute I think it's good enough. Would my PC be able to handle 240 on every single game? Probably not. Could I handle 200? Most likely. But again, you can buy a fantastic setup. You could have the best setup in the world, but if you haven't put in the practice, if you haven't put in the time, if you haven't found the sensitivity that's right for you, you're not necessarily going to do well. You're not going to be the best around. You might even get your ass handed to you by somebody with a cheap setup. Like, it's all subjective. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody better than you. There may be one or two people in the world who are the best in the world at something, but it's very unlikely that you're going to be the best in the world at something. But that's okay. You don't have to be the best. Sometimes being good is good enough. Hell, even having fun is good enough. But again, that's not what you came here to hear. You came here to improve your aim. So what do I do commonly? Hop on a little bit of Kovacs, trace things around, practice my flicks, gradually increase the intensity. It's just like with going to the gym. Just like you want to work out to get stronger, faster, fitter, and just overall in better shape, you've got to train your aim. You've got to keep your muscle memory fresh. And if you constantly flip between sensitivities, you're not going to be able to build muscle memory, at least not accurately. 1 minute you're at a high sensitivity, and you're used to a low one, and you're going to be flying around like a nutter. You'll be doing more 360s than a kid trying out for phase. Now, another thing I've noticed that plays a big part in improving your aim and general play in video games is how you are physically. If you're unfit, you're most likely going to be slower, going to be more lethargic, react slower, process things slower, all that sort of thing. Keeping yourself active, having a good night's sleep, staying hydrated, all of that plays a major role in how you perform online. It's like this, for example. Would you expect a drunk person to play better than a sober person? No. What about somebody that's had a poor night's sleep? Do you expect them to do better in a test? Probably not. Most people struggle to form normal sentences when they've had a poor night's sleep. Mood also comes into play. If you're in a bad mood, you might play better because you're angry, burn off some steam, but you're also more likely to make stupid choices. Now here's one of the main things that I like to remain constant when I'm trying to go for good aim. I like to make sure that my mouse mat is clean in the area that I use and smooth. I don't want any bits of food or anything else, dust accumulating on the mouse mat. Maybe it's down to the fact that I have a heavy mouse, but I like the smooth, friction-free mouse mats, or at least as minimal friction as possible. I used to play on a cloth mouse mat, and my aim was much worse back then, as opposed to now on a smooth, hard pad. Again, having friction and a heavy mouse doesn't really sound like a good idea. Yes, being heavy is subjective, as I no longer feel like this mouse is heavy, and I didn't feel it was heavy to begin with. Anyway, that just about wraps up everything I'm here to ramble about. Again, these are my own opinions. This is what I think has helped me improve my aim over the years. It might not help for you to do the things I do or play at what I play at sensitivity-wise and that sort of thing. Hell, you might not cope with a higher refresh rate, or maybe you might need more than what I have. Everybody's different, and that is totally fine. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully your aim does improve. Hopefully this helps just a little bit. Hopefully it gives you the motivation you need to improve a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's a video game. If you're playing the game for fun, it doesn't matter how you do. Just make sure you do have fun. Make sure you take care of yourself. And as always, have an absolutely fantastic day. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.
I keep on forgetting. Okay. No. Holy shit, dude. That spawn. No. Why did I move from my cover? Could I move back? At least I get to upload a gameplay. Trashing oh well, we won against a big boy cheater. Thank God he was using a shotty. Gonna pick that? Oh, I know.